Hey everyone, welcome back to the Skeptical Leftist. I'm really excited to share this video with you. In this one, we talked about a movie that I've loved for years, Boiler Room. It's an underrated film from the year 2000. It digs deep into the ambition, greed, and toxic hustle culture that we still see a lot of today. If you ever wondered what happens when chasing wealth becomes everything, then this movie and our discussion about it is something you might enjoy. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to remind everyone to like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure to subscribe on any app that you prefer. If you're really enjoying this content, it definitely rate and review on any podcast app. It doesn't take a lot, and it helps a lot for people to find the show. And if you want to keep these conversations going, you can go to patreon.com/skepticalleftist and support the show at whatever level works for you. As little as $1 a month. I think that's the lowest they'll let you set. And you get the exact same thing as all the same bonus content that anybody else does. And of course, it means a lot to me. I really appreciate everybody who supports the show. So in this one, I collaborated with Chris from It Had to Be Said. We've wanted to collaborate for a long time, and Boiler Room was where this kind of manifested. Together, we broke down the film's story, themes, characters, and we also discussed how its message still holds up today, especially in a world full of crypto scams, hustle culture, and rife with the myth of meritocracy. For those of you listening to the podcast, I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. It's got a lot of great insights. But if you get a chance, check out the video version too. We've added some silent clips. Chris did all the editing on this one. He did a fantastic job. And he added some silent clips from Boiler Room to play alongside our discussion, and it really brings a whole nother layer to the experience. I think that's it for now. So thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoy it, and let's go. We're both here, and I guess for people on your channel, I'm Corey Johnston, and
and I'm Chris. My channel is It Had to Be Said. We've wanted to collab for a while, and now we're finally doing it.
Yeah, finally getting around to it. We're going to talk about the movie Boiler Room, which I freaking love this movie.
Yeah, it's a really cool movie.
Yeah, for sure. I never really I've never heard of the writer director for any of his other stuff. Like, I looked at his background and I was like, I don't think I've watched any of these other movies.
Yeah, that's the thing. He hasn't done a lot of other stuff that made it big. And even this movie, of course, isn't really big. Like, it's
true. Kind of a niche thing, I guess.
Yeah, and like you don't see a lot of videos about it. Like, there's endless commentary videos about movies like Wall Street and The Wolf of Wall Street, but Boiler Room has really flown under the radar that way.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I wonder if it's because it doesn't glorify it in the way that maybe Wall Street or Wolf of Wall Street does.
It could be. Yeah, it's toned down in a lot of those things. Like, it certainly doesn't have the kind of the extravagance and excess of The Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Right, for sure.
First 2/3 of it, anyway.
Yeah. The whole thing is, I guess, for those who don't know, the main character is Seth Davis, and he is a kind of a young man who doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and but he knows he wants to be rich because of media and marketing, and he read an article about the secretaries of Microsoft being millionaires.
Yeah, that's the thing. He establishes that right in the opening monologue, right? I think it's pretty interesting because, basically he's saying that he hears from all corners, like, about people who got lucky, right? And if you hear enough stories about it, you think it could happen to anybody, right? Yeah. Which is, basically true, even though it's really unlikely for one person as an individual.
Yeah,
because it can only ever happen to a few people, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, clearly this character thinks he's the one who's gonna make it, right? Like, which I guess I can relate to. Like, what year did this movie come out? It was 2000.
2000, yeah.
So that's 24 years ago. I was 23 years old at that time.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, okay, I got to do something to get rich. In my case, it was not stockbroker.
Yeah.
I tried other things, but yeah, like it was very clear that like this was the mentality at the end of the 90s, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it did, especially at the end of the 90s. You're right, because it really looked like everybody was getting rich and the stock market was like going crazy. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think they even say at one point in the movie, with the Dow at the level that it
Yeah,
is, everyone wants in the market, right?
that's right. Exactly. Because
So
you just hear that and you go, oh, there's people are making money. There's money to be made.
that's right.
Someone's doing it. So that could be
Someone's
me. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Why not me? I guess is the
Yeah.
idea.
And also in the beginning, he says, like, nobody wants to work for it anymore.
Right.
Um, and that makes sense because it's easy enough to figure out that there aren't many jobs where you will get rich or you'll get anything special. You won't go anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Like working for like this is again to throw my personal stuff in there. This was when my parents had just failed out of Amway, which was
Uh-huh.
of course inevitable because everybody fails out of Amway.
Uh-huh.
And this was the idea was that like we all deserve to be rich, but you'll never do it working for someone else. So
Yeah, exactly. There's got to be something else
that's
to
right.
it. Might be starting your own business, which is a pretty big gamble.
Yeah.
Whereas if you become a stockbroker, especially when the commissions are like $1 or $2
Yeah.
per share, like illegally high, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very high. I guess, like say in the film, they do say like, this is illegal. You can't do this. How is he able to pay for this? Like, yeah. So he starts off kind of talking about how he wants to get rich, and he runs this like illegal casino out of his apartment, which I thought was awesome.
You know, it's a great idea.
that's
Yeah.
brilliant. He's willing to wake up in the middle of the night if customers are showing up or first thing in the morning, whatever. People want to give him money. That's fair.
Yeah.
The character Greg is one of these stockbrokers. He knows a guy that apparently Seth knew before the movie. Yeah. And yeah, and then they come and they're gonna gamble at his casino, but then they talk about this stockbroker thing and get him interested, which is
Yeah.
I guess if you're running an illegal casino out of your apartment, maybe that is the kind of thing that would appeal to you. Like you're like,
Sure, yeah.
yeah, sure,
That's
stockbroker.
why
Why
they
not?
chose him, right?
That's right. So then I guess they all go to the kind of the group interview. And I always wondered, like, where did the other guys come from? Like, we only know his story, and all these other guys are like, there's like 15 guys or whatever in the
How
room
did they
doing this.
hear about it?
How did they hear about it? Did they have a recruiter go and pick them up too?
I wonder if guys get like a commission for bringing in a guy who eventually gets accepted.
Right, probably. Yeah, I
That's
mean,
possible, yeah.
which is, I guess, when we get introduced to Ben Affleck's character, which is
Yeah, that's one
Jim
of those.
Young.
That's
Yeah.
one of those cool speeches in a movie, like one of those
Yeah,
classic speech scenes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Which, yeah, very cool. Very cool looking. Very cool. Like he's like, I'm a dude who has a lot of money. This is what's going on.
And that's his whole sales pitch because he knows that it's not something that you work in because you believe in it or something. It's because the only thing that matters is the money, and that's why you're here. And so the whole pitch is him talking about how much money he has.
Yeah, that's
How nice
right.
his car is and stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of absurd actually in a sense because he's like he slides his keys across the table for the Ferrari he owns. He's like, I've got a ridiculous house. I own all the toys you can imagine. And it's just one of these things like, so I'm supposed to aspire to be Ben Affleck,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And they mention, I noticed like a couple of times in this movie they talk about like having all the money in the world but not a clue what to do with it.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
and
Yeah.
mhm. I
I was
mean,
just, yeah, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say it's like an interesting line. I always kind of wonder about that, like how they would react if I told them like each one of you guys should give $1,000 to a homeless shelter or something. I kind of wonder
Yeah,
what
well,
they would say.
no, having money is for buying things that I
Yeah,
want.
for myself, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Even if I have a house that's ridiculous and I don't actually live
You
there.
don't need it. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, that's such a telling scene when they show his house. And it's
Yeah,
this huge house with basically nothing in it.
yeah.
What
Like,
was it?
yeah, to the effect where like Seth, the main character, asks, "Well, did he just move in here?"
Yeah, exactly. No, he's been here for months.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I know. It's weird. I think he's got like a tanning bed, a sofa, and a TV.
yeah,
I think
pretty
I think
much.
that was this whole tanning bed. I
I
love
thought,
that touch.
yeah, the tanning bed for sure. I thought in one scene I did see some boxes off to the corner of the
Yeah,
screen.
there are boxes. He just has
So he maybe he does have more stuff. He just hasn't unpacked it.
yeah, yeah. I can imagine there are people like that who like maybe order stuff from Amazon every day, but
It
they
just
maybe
piles up. Yeah.
yeah, they don't even look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, funny to think that this movie was kind of pre-Amazon, right? Like this was
Mhm.
pre a lot of the stuff we take for granted as normal society now.
Yeah.
And yet still it ties into it so deeply, like the consumerism, the greed, the kind of like facelessness of the uh anyone who isn't the main character kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
Like like all those people, because so I guess to get into it a little bit more, like the company where they work, they cold call people to sell them stocks, right? And the entire thing is that these people aren't people, they're wallets. And your goal is to empty that wallet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's why of course it means so much when we actually see the people that they're ripping off. We only see one of them, right?
Yeah,
And we get into his story. And of course,
yeah,
it ruins his life.
right. Yeah, that's right. He loses his wife. It's he's
Yeah.
completely loses everything. Um, I guess yeah, I don't know, because I know it's technically like an illegal pump and dump scheme where they sell stocks for a company that doesn't really exist,
Exactly.
and then the owner or whatever sells off their stocks and makes $1 million or millions and millions of dollars, right?
Basically, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
But then like we don't really know that at the start when he first starts going there, but it still feels greasy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole thing just still feels like deeply, deeply unethical. Like even the high pressure sales and all that shit.
Because right from the beginning of when you see the sales, you hear it's kind of bullshit. You can tell that they're lying about even if they're not necessarily lying about the company, which they end up turns out they are.
Yeah,
They'll be saying things like, "No, I'm the vice president of this company," and that's why I'm selling, and I have 35 years of experience, and they're like in their 20s.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, that because apparently you're just allowed to lie in this firm.
It's
As
quite
long as the
normal.
sale matters is all that matters, right?
And there's of course there's that part kind of in the middle where Ben Affleck's the only other kind of scene, the maybe the third scene I guess that Ben Affleck's character is actually in. And he brings all the like junior salespeople in, and he teaches them about act as if,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
right?
for
And I thought
sure.
that's a good one. That made a lot of sense to me because because it's a scam, right? So and they can't see you, so you can say anything.
Yeah,
Um, and it's really it's about creating confidence, especially
right.
in like this junior salesperson, right? To sell this bullshit stock. So he says, imagine that you're the president. Imagine that you're, well endowed, because
Yeah, yeah.
then you're more of a man. You can be more confident, right?
Which of course is a deep thing throughout the entire movie, is that you must be a certain type of man. Like
Yes.
this is you have to fight, you have to stand up and be violent when necessary. You have to
Mhm.
denigrate women. You and you have to be racist against anybody that isn't yourself.
That's the thing. There's even racism in it. Like that's the thing, and I would say that's kind of the main theme of it all. I kind of don't like the term anymore, but it's a useful term, toxic masculinity. Like that's
Right.
really what it's about, and we see it in different ways in different characters. I think it's interesting,
Yeah.
because like I think Greg's character, he's really he's different from Seth in a lot of ways, so that's interesting. They contrast. Like
Yeah.
I think it's, again, you can tell it's about like toxic men, in the scenes where he's trying to get back with Abby,
Right.
the only woman in the whole movie, basically, right? Um,
Yeah. Well,
and
besides Seth's mom is in a
oh,
couple.
that's true, yeah, and Harry's wife, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Was the only one with any real lines, and he just doesn't get it. Like she's clearly already broken it off
Yeah.
with him, but he's like giving her jewelry and going like, you know, you look pretty. He says like you look pretty. Like he thinks he can like
Yeah.
compliment her and buy gifts to get her back. And in the same scene, he's like, "You want to tell me where the fuck you were last night?" It's like,
Yeah, like he definitely
"Who the fuck
thinks
are
he
you?"
owns her, right? Like
Yeah.
and she says like, "I don't know how many ways to tell you that it's over." And he just says, "Well, I disagree."
Disagree. Yeah.
What what do you don't get to do that, man.
I know. It's so There's so, like, I guess, again, I don't know if it's the right word, but like he's entitled. They're
Yeah,
so entitled, and actually, you really see that, of course, in the first scene. That's kind of what part of what the whole first scene is about. They're in like this party that the firm's throwing for them, and
right.
they're like running through this hotel and like taking over the hotel pretty much, right?
Yeah.
They even
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and like they like even like go up to a woman and like kiss her and like run off
Yeah.
and stuff. You're like,
They're like
whoa.
having their meeting in like the big room, or like it's almost like the lobby, right? And guys are doing cocaine sitting on the table right in the lobby, and it's like, wow, so you just think the rules do not apply to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The
Which, I
rules are
mean,
for other people.
yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, like that toxic masculinity thing comes in a lot of ways too. Like they like especially I think the Greg and Abby situation, because it's throughout the whole movie. Greg constantly tries to claim ownership over her and like push Seth away from her, because
Mhm.
there's of course a romantic aspect to the movie with Abby and Seth.
Yeah, and
And
he's really jealous.
yeah, and he's an incredibly jealous person, which isn't, I don't know, I guess it's kind of portrayed as like a really shitty thing to be, but also like nobody calls him out on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like even Seth is just like, well, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, he kind of says like, "Well, I'm with her now." Like,
Yeah.
not.
Good thing you're not with her, because you hate her apparently.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good example of that. And Seth isn't he's not that kind of guy, fortunately, right?
Right.
The his He's not even like he's one of the much less toxic guys, really. I think the thing about him, his problem is that he craves his dad's approval,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
that's his whole thing, and that's kind of his motivation, like it's his biggest motivation, really, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that I thought of, I've tried to think of that in terms of like, because I'm a dad, I have a 20 something son. And I think of it like the way that his dad treats him, I would never treat my son that.
Mhm.
Like, they're having dinner at the house or whatever, and he confronts Seth about the casino that he has. And he throws the chips at him. He's like, look at this. What is this?
It's illegal, Seth.
And I'm like, that's not how you talk to someone. If you want to get through to him, that is not the way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't allow for discussion.
Yeah.
He's got a very kind of right and wrong way of seeing the world. Like it's either right or it's wrong, and this is wrong, so you got to stop doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there is to it. If you don't, I mean, he's almost like threatens to cut him off eventually. He's like, you know what, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
Yeah, like they later they well that's pretty harsh, eh? Later they go for coffee and Seth says, well, I'm just trying to salvage what's left of our relationship. And then the dad like full on says,
relationship?
We're not dating.
I'm not your girlfriend, Seth.
But I guess, I don't know. Does he not understand there's different types of relationships? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like he doesn't care about that. Like it's not a relationship, it's a one-way thing almost.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You're the son and you listen.
I'm not your mom, I'm not your best friend, I'm your dad. I'm the one who tells you when you screw up. And I'm like, I don't know. Your dad doesn't have to be your best friend, but he can be less of a shithead.
More than just that.
Yeah.
When his dad's trying to kind of push him away and he's like crying, he's like desperate for his approval, you know? And he's like begging for it almost, you know?
For sure. He even says like, I closed the casino for you. I got this job for you. Like I'm doing everything I can to make you proud of me, to make you happy. And I think in a way that's the moment where it actually breaks through to the dad is like, oh, so all these things, it's because of me, not because, you know.
Yeah.
It's not because my son sucks. It's because I suck.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that story is so like key to Seth's character. That story about he rode his new bike and he fell and his dad was like horrified.
Yeah, you know? He was so afraid he
slapped him.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he didn't. What was it he said? Why did he say he did it?
He said it was because you were hysterical, Seth. There was no communicating with you. And then later, I think he kind of did secede like the fact that like, no, I did it because I was afraid and I couldn't think clearly and whatnot. Which is of course after the cops intervened and like, because of course there's cops in this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And it was so hard for him to admit it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like he's supposed to have no vulnerabilities, it seemed like.
Right. Yeah, which is a very like it's another type of that toxic masculinity. I know the term doesn't get isn't like very well liked, but I find it to have a lot of use. Pretty and accurate. Especially when you look at like the various types of men in a movie like this, like the dad isn't necessarily a criminal who's like stealing from people or whatever, but he's definitely toxic.
Yeah. And you can see like where that kind of thing comes from, because we see not just, you know, the younger guys, but the parents, right? Only those parents, of course, but it kind of gives you a peek into how you could be that way. Kind of seeking approval from authority in the form of things like money, because like if he made lots of money, his dad wouldn't need to ask like where he got it from. You know, he'd just kind of be proud that he had this money. You must have done really well. You must have like worked hard or worked smart or something.
Yeah.
And that's how you got it, right?
Yeah. Like the myth of the meritocracy, right? Like if you have a lot of money, it's because you did something well or right or, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And actually I found one line really revealing is like right near the end, you know, Chris, played by Vin Diesel,
right?
How he it's the firm is kind of just about to close. He found out about it already, that the FBI is coming, and he's like, you know how hard I worked to get where I am. It's like, I thought that was really revealing. Like, even after scamming all these people, he still thinks hard work counts for something. Like, he worked hard to scam people out of the money, out of the fruits of their hard work,
Yeah.
But still, he had to work hard to do that,
Yeah, that's right. Like, I spent many hours honing my skills, stealing from people on the
lying
phone.
about who I am and taking my money.
Yeah. I guess one of the things I'd noticed was a total lack of shame among any of the characters, really, except for Seth, who did kind of feel that shame. And and I'm kind of relating that back to a book I've been reading called Humankind by Rutger Bregman.
Yeah. Right.
And how he talks about how certain types of people, like sociopaths and people who have brain damage, and CEOs all have no shame, and they don't blush when they do things that other people would be embarrassed by, and that allows them to rise to the top of these exploitative, awful systems where where they're on top and the rest of us are suffering under them.
And so those people create those systems, order those systems.
Yeah, that's right. So they maintain them so that they can stay there.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it just, every one of these sales guys is that guy.
Yeah, and it kind of shows how you kind of have to be.
Yeah.
Right? That's who you turn into if you weren't already that way, right?
For sure.
Because there's lies involved. And you can tell, I mean, even we can tell that from the beginning that there's a scam, there's something greasy going on, right?
Yeah.
He's obviously discouraged from asking questions too. Every time, he asks, he talks to Abby, he talks to Chris, and both of them are like, why do you even care? Why are you asking where this stuff comes from? Just be happy you're making good money.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's in the one scene Chris says, why are you asking this? I like being a millionaire.
Yeah, I like being a millionaire.
These are the wrong questions.
It's okay to ask where the money comes from. But I guess that's why it's the same as saying, don't ask, you don't want to know how the sausage is made, right?
Right. Yeah, because that is a thing that keeps coming up for Seth, is how can we make these huge rips? They say they're huge commissions, $2, or at the end, the sale of the one stock, they're giving them $5 commissions per stock. And these are, not only is it illegal, but it's just not possible unless this is a scam. And nobody gives a shit except for the main character.
Yeah. And even that might just have been because he kind of came back at one night. He came back late and saw this guy shredding documents and stuff. And that was another, or at least because that was another.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I guess in a sense, we're kind of skipping over some of the details of the movie to hit on the themes, right? But so Seth comes back one night after a party and to get his bag, and the so-called SEC compliance officer, the Securities and Exchanges Commission, the officer is shredding documents, and then he sees the head of the JT Marlin, the firm. He sees them over in a separate building, and he goes in to check it out, and they're all these phones cause they got to switch buildings if the heat gets too close. And
exactly.
Yeah. No, so it creates a good sense of suspense in a way, right? That this is a scam, that it's coming up, something's going to happen. At one point, Seth's dad does call Seth back after his breakdown, right? And he's okay, I'll help you get this money back for this guy that got ripped off. And he says too many things on the phone, I guess. And of course the feds are listening. Yeah. So now they take Seth and the judge, his dad, into a room and threaten to destroy his career if Seth doesn't turn informant on them for him. Which, of course, Seth flips instantly because he cares about all he cares about is his dad.
Exactly. He says like, "Oh, I'll tell you anything as long as you don't do anything at all to my dad."
Yeah, that's right. He walks out the back door right now, and that's it. Which is both, I find, a little bit admirable, but also like not so much.
Yeah, he's still turning rat, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Like,
but I don't know. His dad should have known better not to call him on the phone. Why didn't you meet in a park or something?
That's right. You got to know that the phones are tapped, or at least there's a chance they could be, right?
At least.
Yeah. Think ahead, man.
Maybe that's one of the unrealistic parts of the movie.
Yeah, maybe.
Is that I also thought it was kind of, not necessarily unrealistic, but I never really understood why Abby went for Seth in the first place. Like she just seems to kind of like him.
Just right off the hop. Yeah, he walks in and she's like, that's the guy.
Just this, like, it's not like he's especially handsome or anything. He's just a normal guy.
Just a normal guy, yeah.
Oh, well.
He gives off a good vibe, I guess, compared to some of the other guys.
Yeah, he seems more honest, maybe.
Yeah.
It's weird that she would want to date I would think most people in her position, she's like the receptionist, right? Most of them would just assume that you don't date anybody in that office, I would have thought.
Yeah, that's right. You just avoid work relationships, especially after you dated Greg.
Yeah.
Like that would be the red flag right there, I would think.
Or maybe she just goes, "Oh, well, Seth's clearly different, so
somehow
he must be better."
Yeah,
by contrast, he looks way better, right?
Yeah. She's got a sixth sense about these things.
Yeah.
One of the things that did strike me like kind of early on was this idea of the get rich quick scheme, right? And I was thinking like, so this is like in the modern age, we would say that's crypto or NFTs, right? Like these are the same guys.
Oh yeah, totally. This is just 24 years ago.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. In fact, I was thinking it almost seems quaint that like the scams are only on the phone.
Yeah.
Back then, that's the only scam. Now it's like from every corner of like media. Everything's a scam.
Yeah, every single thing is a scam.
Practically. Yeah, you never know what to dress. And so that's of course that's like a theme, right? But I kind of think that like all the other themes, it ties into the toxicity theme,
Right.
Like why are they under all this pressure to succeed and make all this money? And why are those the same things, success and money? Why are those the same thing, And I think it's all related.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's part of the capitalist system, right? We all are taught that money equals success, and it doesn't even matter how you got it, because that if you got it, then you deserved it.
And you probably worked hard.
Right, sure.
And after all, that is kind of hard work, like that they do, even if it only, maybe you only work for a few years and you make like huge amounts of money, but it's still hard work.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they had a life outside of work, right? Like they worked and then they went out and drank and then they went and worked and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it always makes me wonder what's the point of it all,
Well, that's just accumulation. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. Where's the quality of life rather than just the accumulation of wealth?
Exactly. Like I thought of, maybe, I don't know, a long time ago, 20 years ago, let's say, I thought of like being an entrepreneur and starting businesses and stuff. And that would be my career. But when I looked at how much work was involved and I thought about it seriously, I was like, you know what? Why not just get a job? It's so much easier.
Yeah. I remember like I say, it's quite a long time ago now, but me and my buddies, we talked about like, there was a record store in our town that we were all like on board. We were going to buy it for sure. Like we had appointments with the bank and everything. And the only reason we didn't do it is because we couldn't get approved.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like it was, so, you could be willing to put in the work, right? but like that's no guarantee that you're gonna get
Mhm.
the advantage or the opportunity, right?
That's right. Which is why it makes sense to try to just get rich quick, and then nobody can
Yeah.
take then you can go on to the next thing or retire or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's
Yeah.
also why like MLMs and such are so appealing to people because they seem like I start a business for a minimal input,
Mhm.
and I can just work hard and I can be
Yeah,
successful. But
exactly.
they're by and large a scam. So
No, scam, yeah. The thing. Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing, scams are everywhere.
yeah, for sure.
Not just on the phone.
No, not just on the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the videos that I saw, I kind of watched all the YouTube stuff I could find on Boiler Room. There weren't many
Okay.
videos, only a couple of them. One of them said that phone-based boiler rooms like that one don't actually exist anymore, but there
Okay.
are similar things on X and YouTube and Facebook, like like
I've got
selling crypto, that
I've
kind of
got
thing.
the Wealth Simple app on my phone.
The what?
Wealth Simple. So I can just go and buy stock on my phone. And so if if I see something in the news or somebody tries to give me a sales tip, I can just go and buy the stock on my
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
But I use it as a savings account, but
Okay.
because that's money that it takes multiple days to come back into your account when you put it in there.
Okay.
So so it's not an instant transfer the way many other things are.
Gotcha.
But because buying stock as a person, like unless you have massive quantities of like money or really, really good like information or
Mhm.
time to like stay on top of these things, like it's not a thing that a person can make a lot of money on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, that's, we learned that from Wall Street, from the movie Wall Street, right?
Right.
"Kid, if you're not inside, you're outside."
Yep.
That's always
That's
stuck with
right.
me.
And I guess related to Boiler Room, like they watch Wall Street. They worship this movie. They all
Yeah,
recite lines from this
that's
movie.
right.
They sit there and they applaud each other for reciting the correct
Knowing
lines.
lines. Yeah, Gordon Gekko's like their hero, right?
Yeah, which is not good.
And it goes to show, like, how easily you can misinterpret like a movie if or not even necessarily that they misinterpret but that they just don't care about the negative side or they don't get the point or whatever and they just kind of who cares we can be like Gordon Gekko and they
Yeah.
kind of are because they're kind of like illegally getting rich.
Yeah, that's right. That's I guess in a sense like that's a theme throughout like all pop culture is that like even if you're criticizing certain ideas, the people that those ideas are representing, they don't care if you're criticizing them or satirizing them.
Yeah,
They see
gonna do it anyway.
your perception of them as cool. Like
Yeah, yeah,
they're like,
I
"Oh,
get
you think I'm a bad guy? That's awesome."
there are a lot of like interesting movies like that.
Yeah,
And usually they are warnings both both to everybody about these rich people, but also like to somebody who wants to become rich. That's usually part of the warning too. Right?
yeah. The idea that you're supposed to aspire to these characters, it's often like not you're not supposed to aspire to these characters, and that's
Exactly.
missed by so many people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Boiler Room makes that pretty clear. I think it doesn't even try to really glamorize things. It says, yeah, you can
Right.
make lots of money, but who cares? Like, is it really worth it? Is it worth
Yeah.
any of that?
Yeah, like I guess kind of the showing of the way that they behaved outside of work hours and even inside work hours, the way that they competed
Mhm.
with each other and like treated each other so badly and disrespectfully. Like it was I don't know, it was clear that I didn't want to be anything like them.
Yeah.
So
That's right, yeah. Yeah, I know. It'd be tough to work in a place like
it's
that.
like I want to be rich for no work, but I also don't want to be just a shithead to everybody around me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Is it possible to do that?
I don't think so.
Maybe.
I don't know. I wrote down some stuff about the sales tactics. Like they say, like it's a contact sport, uh, and then they talk about always be closing.
Yeah. Have you seen the Glengarry Glen Ross?
I think I did way back, but I never really watched it again.
Because it's from the Alec Baldwin speech at the beginning. That's when I think of like great speeches,
Right.
that great movie speeches, that's one of them. Because he talks about, it is a similar one to Ben Affleck's speech about like, getting rich in real estate. It's similar.
Ah,
But and as much as anything, it's telling these salespeople, you're shit. You're gonna have to like work way harder. Um,
right.
you want to try to be like me. I'm awesome at the top of my game and whatever.
Okay.
And so that's his thing. He writes it on the board. A, B, C. Always be closing. Always be closing. He underlines it.
Okay.
And that kind of made sense to me when I was in sales. I was never really good at sales, but I tried it for a little while, and it's true. You got to kind of always have that in mind, that you have to, every contact should be trying to close the person, trying to get them to
Right.
say yes, right?
Yeah, not a fan actually.
Yeah, no,
I
no.
uh I did work for a vacuum cleaner sales company for a moment. I didn't last very long because of that exact
Yeah,
scenario. Like, yeah, you always have to be pushing, and I'm not that kind of
mhm.
guy. So,
Yeah, I know. That's probably my weakness in sales too. I don't know. I assume I assume that's why I got fired from that sales job.
right.
That, and because I was kind of rude and
Yeah. Yeah, they also say that they don't sell stock to women, and
Mhm.
they say it in an extremely demeaning and
Yeah, we don't have to
extremely
repeat that.
yeah, extremely shitty way. But
Yeah. I thought that was interesting too. Yeah, the way they give the reasons not to, right? Basically that, oh, she'll call you over and over and stuff. And I wonder if that's really the reason.
yeah, I think that that's kinda somebody it's one of those, like, you had one experience and you put all women in the box now. Like,
I was thinking
all
exactly
women are like that one that I didn't like.
that. Yeah. Yeah, it could totally be that. Um, and maybe it's probably also because they're kind of their way of pitching it doesn't, a woman might see through it, or she might not
Right.
care, she might not go for that, you know.
Yeah.
I remember like one one line that I thought, um it kind of it goes by quickly. You almost don't notice it, but then like when Seth is selling to Harry, to
Right.
the one guy that we actually see of his victims, like one thing that he's trying really hard not to get Harry to talk to his wife, to consult
Yeah.
with his wife about it. No, Harry, you don't need to talk to your wife about this. You make decisions, right? And he's like, he's like, she wouldn't ask you to, if she can use a coupon for a cereal now, would she? Like, and then but what I thought was really revealing is when he said, it's your money, you earned it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, you're the breadwinner,
And
you should
then
be able to make the decisions about the money.
that's right, yeah, and then even Harry, when he goes and talks to his wife about that, uses the same line and the same mentality, and she says, like, "I only don't work because you said I shouldn't work and I should stay home and
Mhm,
take care of the kids."
mhm.
Like, and then you throw it back in my face as a person, like, that I'm relying on you when we could both be working.
Exactly.
Yeah, it struck me as a very common attitude, like, I probably even had that same attitude in 2000. Like,
Mhm.
like, that's the kind of thing that was very common then. When he first got to know Harry, or he was first calling Harry, that he said was like, "Tell me, Harry, are you married or are you happy?" And I was like, "Hold on now."
Yeah.
Yeah, That's not a fair question at all.
But it's good because I didn't it get him laughing.
It
It's
did,
good.
yes. Yeah.
You get the client laughing. That makes sense. He warms up to you, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that's a good line. He probably had a few lines like that, like, in a holster, like, "Are you married? Are you happy? Oh, oh, good one."
Yeah. Yeah. Which then, of course, Harry says, "No, I've been married for 10 years." And then Seth, of course,
Mhm.
lies
Yeah,
and
but
says,
it's
"I've been married
myself,
for 6
yeah.
myself."
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. "Oh, you've got kids? Oh, me too." Yeah.
yeah, that's right. It's like there's casual racism, there's lots of casual sexism, there's like casual anti-Semitism. There's lots of like
Yeah,
just these
yeah,
little things, right? They just throw them in.
they're just insulting each other for whatever thing they can think of, and of course, like, race is, like,
Yeah, it's part of it,
an
right?
obvious thing. Um, yeah, I read somewhere, I think it was a tweet or a skeet or something about that said something like, that toxic masculinity or men bond, like, over a kind of, treating people as the other, like mocking
Right.
another group. They bond by, like, shitting on these other groups there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw the same tweet or post or whatever on whatever website. Like, yeah, it's very much like, yeah, these toxic guys, they bond over that like you say, like the laughing at the pain of marginalized people or whatever it is.
Yeah, basically. And it actually like, it was just like that for me in high school. Um, like, that was me in high school, that's what it was normal. Like, that's
Right.
what we did, you know?
But you're supposed to grow out of it, I hope, is
Yeah,
the
oh,
thing, right?
sure,
Like
but
that
it took
these
time,
guys didn't, yeah. The guys in the movie did definitely not grow out of it. It's very
Yeah,
much ingrained in them.
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, who would teach them not to? Really, they're encouraging each other to do it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. The act as if speech glorifies wealth. And it's basically a bullshit speech about how, with the right drive and attitude, anyone can be rich. If you just like, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, yeah.
And it
It's
rewards predatory behavior.
you might even say that it's the firm, the JT Marlin is almost like a representation of capitalism, like a
Yeah.
microcosm. That's what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. That's it in a nutshell, right? That
Right.
here's some bullshit that, like, go out there, promise other people it'll make them money.
Yep. Yep.
And it ends up being kind of a Ponzi scheme, and it collapses like all Ponzi schemes
They're not engaged in what I would call meaningful work.
do. Yeah. And I guess after seeing that all these people get rich and stuff, and it doesn't matter how they got rich, then they don't need meaningful work, right? They don't care about that.
Yeah.
They
The work
never
itself
want.
is not the goal, I guess. Is like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And it makes sense. I mean, and that's why Seth says at the beginning, there's no honor in taking that after school job at Mickey D's. Honor's in the dollar, kid.
I don't think they know what honor means.
Yeah. There could still be honor, but I don't think there ever was in a Mickey D's job.
No.
You just do it because you have to. And
That's
so,
right.
like,
Yeah.
if you have to work, why not scam people and get really rich?
Yep.
I mean,
I guess one of the things that I did notice was Seth's casino partner got pissed off because he was doing all the work and Seth was just coming in and getting half the money.
uh-huh.
And Seth said, "Well, this is my business, so I get to do that." And he's like, "Well, then I can't do this. I'm not you. I'm not killing myself for half of the fucking profits."
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, "Well, then shut it down. We're done. If I can't make money without working, if I can't exploit you, then we're done here."
Yeah, that's business, right? That's what a business owner does.
Yeah.
It's
And he
back
very
and forth.
much uses like I gave you an opportunity. I pulled you out of poverty. You used to be making $10 an hour and now you're pulling down $1,000 a week.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
like,
Give you
yeah.
more.
Yeah. Very, very like typical rhetoric from like the
I'm a
capitalist
boss.
perspective, right?
Yeah.
I kind of thought his casino partner Jeff, guess his name was. I thought he had a point. Like he was very much like, yeah, I can't do it, man.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem fair. Maybe it's because, he's quite close to Seth. Like he's got his hands deep in the business and he knows how much money he's pulling in and everything. Whereas like I don't know how much money the business that I work for is making. So
Right.
I don't know like what I'm worth as an employee. I don't know how much is going just to shareholders and stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, like you could say like if we all looked at it the way Jeff does, we'd all be rebelling against
To
our
be on strike at
bosses.
least. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, he didn't even want to make it like a cooperative casino
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
he lost it.
Yeah.
Should be considered an option.
Yeah, which is funny because he'll fully give up his free $1,000 a week,
Hmm.
right? In the name of being in control
Yeah.
of the business. And I've seen this in my own life with my own bosses. They'll grind work to a halt. They will like they'll lose money on purpose in order to control the worker
Right.
and to maintain that level of control over them.
Right.
A competitive environment like that at JT Marlin breeds contempt between coworkers, so they never look deeper at the company. And that seemed like a good
Mhm.
allegory for capitalism.
Oh, yeah, fighting amongst yourselves,
That's
constantly
right.
competing over resources, so you don't look at the system itself.
I also thought that it was quite interesting. Like we were 56 minutes in before we ever saw the feds.
Mhm.
So we don't know how long they've been watching this
Mhm.
company, but we know that like the state and the deregulation of business in this kind of environment has created a place like JT Marlin can even
Mhm.
exist, right?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
they're not being watched like they should be. They're not actually regulated as closely as they should be. Like so, the marriage of the state and capitalism has creates the system that scams everyday people.
Yeah, yeah. And their supposed safeguards like obviously don't work. They put one guy that the firm has to employ or
Right.
something like that, right? But so like his incentive is to just work for them. And he does.
Yeah,
He's like a
that's
manager
right.
basically.
Yeah, I'm sure he gets under the table bonuses or
There's
whatever.
no doubt.
So I kind of thought that like deregulation was almost a character within the film, and like
Mhm.
the lack of oversight was part
Mhm.
of the whole system there.
Mhm. Mhm. And it's interesting that the FBI instead of I mean, maybe this is silly, I don't know, but it feels weird that they're like, let's gather information and then shut them down instead of kind of, I don't know, going in there and seeing what's up and saying like you're not supposed to do this. I know that's what they do. It's not that
Right.
they don't warn and suggest
Yeah.
and stuff, but it just seems like that would make more sense. Like just start by going like you shouldn't be doing this, and then
Yeah. Like
then if they
where
keep doing it, then we'll shut you down. You know?
that's right. Where's the audit committee? Where,
Yeah,
like
there you go. Exactly. That's what it would be. If there
yeah.
was auditors,
Right.
then
Like I'm sure these companies have to do audits regularly and justify their system of doing things so that
yeah.
they're in compliance of the rules. But
How would they pass an external audit?
yeah,
That doesn't
yeah,
make any
that's
sense.
right.
So there you go. That's deregulation, right? If they know the firm exists, but they're just not auditing them because, or they are, but they're doing so little. It's not a real
Right.
audit. Like
Yeah, that's right. Or I guess maybe it's the corrupt SEC compliance officer
could be,
that's like supposed to do those audits,
could
but
be.
instead he's like in the office shredding things at night.
Mhm.
And I put, of course, the cops target the black woman first.
Right, right.
That they go after Abby to like go after Seth, I guess is kind
What
of the
was it
idea.
they had on her? Oh no, just the fact that she'd worked there, I guess.
Yeah, like in all her name is on all the paperwork, so
Right.
somehow she's
Yeah.
implicated,
That's
right?
right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's probably just easier for them to to pressure her.
Yeah, yeah. Her mom relies on her because that was part of the
Exactly.
story.
She doesn't want to lose everything.
There's that scene, like you mentioned before, where Seth's dad tells him, like, you're working for a chop shop. I don't want anything to do with you. You're just a garbage person now. And like he frames it in a way as though JT Marlin isn't just literally a manifestation of capitalism, the world that they live in. He's like, this is out of the ordinary. You're manipulating people in ways that I don't recognize as legal.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, before that, he said, when they go as the family, they meet at like a restaurant, and Seth's like, he says he's working for JT Marlin, and his dad's like, I've never heard of JT Marlin. Why don't you, like, apply for one of the bigger ones that I've heard of, the JP Morgans and the Goldman Sachs and stuff. Like, why aren't you applying to them? He just can't give him any approval. Like, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
So it's no good.
The place that you're making your money is not important enough for me. Yeah. I guess overall, I love this movie, but obviously there's a lot of like stuff about the characters that I didn't like. Like I don't like stockbrokers. I don't like thieves. I don't like con artists. I don't like the misogyny and casual racism. There was some casual homophobia as well, of course. Although I think the gay men in New York got the better of the crew.
Yeah. And that's kind of, maybe that's how we know that it's not, they're, the salespeople, they're not supposed to be the coolest guys in the world. Like, it's okay to make fun of them, and
for sure,
show they're out of their element in that.
I guess, in that situation for sure. When they were talking to the other guys, like the other stockbrokers or whoever, then they ended up getting violent, right? Because they had to prove their masculine dominance, which I guess they didn't do with the gay guys.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Well, I don't think it was because they were gay. I think it was more because of where they were. It wasn't a bar; it was just a restaurant, and they weren't in Long Island or wherever they
were in the city.
They were in the city, right?
Yeah.
I think that was it.
For sure.
And also, I noticed that the scene where, they get into fights in two scenes, but in one of them, it's just the guys without Seth. And I wondered if that was part of it, if it was kind of showing that Seth's a little different. Maybe they wouldn't have got into a fight if he'd been there,
Yeah,
hard to know. I don't know exactly what it's saying about him, though.
Yeah, because at that time, in that scene, he was on his date with Abby, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And so I guess we had a pretty good cast, honestly. Like Scott Conn plays Richie. I like Scott Conn. I know that he always plays the same guy, but I like Scott Conn.
Yeah, he's pretty funny.
I like Vin Diesel. I like Nia Long.
Yeah, I especially like Vin Diesel in that movie. That's maybe my favorite role of his, because he's such a good salesperson, basically. I just love watching that.
Yeah, it's not centered around about how tough he is, really, right? All right, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching and or listening. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Boiler Room as much as we enjoyed making it. Before you go, make sure to check out Chris's channel, It Had to Be Said. He's doing some great stuff there, and I'm really happy that we could collaborate on this. The link is in the description and show notes, so give his channel a look and subscribe while you're there. Thank you to everyone who supports this show on Patreon. It means the world to me and helps keep the internet and the power on. A huge thanks to my top patrons, Damian Marie at Hope, Some Random Geek, Justin Clark, Dan F. Smith, and Lisa Glass. And of course, thank you to all my new patrons as well. If you aren't a patron yet and want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/skepticalleftist or send a one-time donation at buymeacoffee.com/skepticallefty. I also have a Substack where you can subscribe for free or contribute monthly. Spotify also offers a paid subscription option for bonus content and extra long episodes. If financial support isn't an option, a like on YouTube or a 5-star rating and a review on your favorite podcast app is a huge help too. For more from me, check out the show notes for links to all my content, or head to my Linktree at linktr.ee/skepticalleftist. That's where you'll find all my social media spaces, communities, and more ways to connect. And you can also email me at mindofaskepticalleftist@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching or listening. Make sure to leave a comment on the video or podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to join your local org, print off some posters or pamphlets and spread the propaganda. See you next time.